Hello everybody, we are the Geeks and Degenerates. I am Enzo, this is my forever co-host John, and today we finally talk about Godzilla Minus One. Finally comes, it's available for everybody now, not just those in Japan, which is nice.
Fucking finally. Because, like, oh my god, you know how agonizing it was when people are saying, we finally get the Godzilla that we want. We finally get the villain Godzilla. And it's, what was it, like, Oscar worthy?
Yeah,
And we're like, wow, when is it coming? And they're like, oh, it's coming out in December in the US. I'm like, I was like, cool, when is it coming here? And they're like,
never.
not yet. Not yet. And I was like, but Japan, we're closer to each other. And, like, you kind of owe us this. like, come on, man. Like, they didn't release it here in theaters, which is such a shame because there were so many scenes here that was, like, I would say, would have had, like, a bigger effect if it was in a cinema with, like, better stereo instead of just hearing it through fucking earphones or through the TV. Like, holy shit, like, dude. I'll sing all the praises, but God, you grind my gears, Japan.
Same here. And like, it was agonizing seeing it win all those awards and us being like, that's nice. If only we could experience it for ourselves. The Oscar with winning visual effects. And you see this movie, you're like, God damn, they really deserve that award. And like there have been countless Godzilla movies between its creation and now, and like I feel like after all this time, it finally winning something puts a step forward to like kaiju movies of being like, this is next level. Like it's kind of like what The Dark Knight did for comic book movies, when they're like, hey, we can be this. We're not just for kids or like people who grew up loving comic books. We can be something else, and like that pushed comic book movies forward. I feel like this is going to be the one that people will look back and be like, Godzilla Minus One was the start. And like,
did you hear? Oh, sorry.
Did I hear?
Go on. No, because they're making a sequel.
That makes sense after seeing the ending.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
And I'm very excited for the new villain. I'm not very familiar with this one, but like, we'll talk about it when we talk about it.
yeah. But yeah, as you guys may already know, this is set like the recovery stages of Japan after World War II, during, after, and like years after. So it kind of misled me because I was like, the poor Japan. This is like, I thought it was like right after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's like, can Japan not catch up?
I not gonna lie. I thought this was like, oh, this is the bomb, and like they just like, oh, this is America's bomb.
Yeah.
Just as a representation of like, yeah, just in Godzilla form. I thought that was what they were gonna go with, like the original.
Yeah. And like this Godzilla movie does something that I never thought I would see before, which is make me care about the main characters. Two of them being Tsushima, I believe that's his name, the kamikaze pilot, and Noriko, his lover, and their child that they just adopt. Like they're not related to each other at all, but they really live with the saying that blood might be blood, but family is chosen. And like you feel that connection and bond, and so that's why when Godzilla shows up for the first time in any Godzilla movie that I can remember, I actually feel like I hope they don't die. I really don't want them to die.
And not gonna lie, like seeing Godzilla, we'll get to the family like stuff in a bit, but the start of this movie is this kamikaze pilot, this disgraced kamikaze pilot, who didn't finish his job, comes in and like tries to get his plane repaired.
Yeah.
But he clearly deserted. Well, okay, sorry, no quotations there. He deserted. He he ran away from his duty.
Yeah.
And people are starting to get suspicious. I was like, why is this guy still here? When his plane is like, all right.
Yeah.
And then later that night, they're like still a little bit suspicious, but something's up. Something's coming into the horizon. You hear the alarms. And I was like, oh, here we go. We're gonna see. Go. What the fuck is that thing?
Right?
Like, when this thing comes in, it roars. And I was like, you know how Godzilla roars and it's just like bellow and just like roar. You
Yeah.
know, like it's big and because it's slow because it's big.
Yeah.
But with this Godzilla, it felt like the T-Rex scene from Jurassic Park all over again. I was like,
Yeah, it feels like a roided up T-Rex with like doomsday spikes. You're like, what the fuck is that thing? Holy
yeah,
shit.
it shakes and shakes its head very violently. I was like, why is it moving so fast?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that. And like Godzilla usually is the character that like just is when it moves, it just leaves destruction upon its way.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what it does. This thing's looking.
Yeah.
This shit was searching for people to fuck over. I was like, I don't want to see that thing. like as a child, like you would always be like, I want to see a Godzilla in real life. You want to see it from a distance, and I'm like, yeah. This one, I was like, I don't ever want to be in the vicinity of this thing.
Right? And then, like, he goes back to his, the mainland, Japan. That's where he starts his
Yeah.
family with Noriko. And, like, there's such ample time to develop this family. And that feeling of upcoming dread of, like, I don't like this feeling of, like, I don't want to lose any of these characters. Because you see them and the rest of Japan rebuild from the war. And your hopes are up. Of, like, maybe things can get better. Of course, you know, Japan is doing very well today. But, like, seeing them rebuild from what is the aftermath of World War II. This is essentially like what happens after Oppenheimer. Of like, oh god, these are just people. Just leave them alone, please.
I have a question. Is this? Do you find it weird that they were just like, when they went back into society, they were like, ah, yeah, the war was horrible. That giant lizard, though. no one ever just went like, I saw something that like you'll never believe.
Right? They're just like, you know what? We have a country to build. The giant lizard will take care of itself. Maybe we'll just go somewhere else.
I guess, and then it just fucking shows up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. I love this transition where they start from rock bottom, and you just see how they rebuild. You see the sacrifices people made just to rebuild
Yeah.
after that, essentially war crime that like that happened to them, and like I love the slow transition where he meets the love interest. She's pretty much a thief running around trying to take care of this baby.
Yeah.
And like they start to build a relationship to a point where it does feel like they're husband and wife, but not really, because there are like deeper psychological battles that's happening within each character's head, and I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
that's pretty real. And then
With the pilot,
like-
his war isn't over yet, too. He still feels
Yeah.
like he has to fulfill his duty. And you're like,
yeah,
you don't. Come on, man. The war's over. You can relax now.
yeah, like that, like he starts taking up like dangerous jobs just to like earn. Like you could clearly see he's the one like the richest one in the fucking village.
Yeah.
Because he's like taking up like mine sweeping, like sea mine sweeping. I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty dangerous job. And yeah, and by the way, we didn't mention like when Godzilla did attack in the first scene. Like he abandoned that
His
these
boast.
innocent engineers.
Yeah.
Yeah. He abandoned his post where he was supposed to shoot Godzilla with a plane gun, but he didn't out of fear.
Yeah.
And the rest of the people get eaten, and only one engineer made it out. And that engineer like spites him.
Yeah.
Like, full on hates him
Yeah, like,
after that.
how dare you not fire? Look what happened to all my comrades. And the guy's just like, I'm sorry. And you're like,
Yeah, I mean, like he like gives him a photo of all of their families, and I'm like, oh god.
right?
Like, god damn. And then, but like you could clearly tell that like even if he did fire,
Yeah.
it would have done absolutely nothing
Jack
because later on, as he's doing his job that actually pays a lot, guess who comes back?
Godzilla, and then like, this film is so unique because you're used to seeing Godzilla and the army, like it's like a modern army, like it's modern Abrams tanks and jets, but here they're just like World War II, guns
Not even
and
World
planes.
War. Ah, yeah, and a fish boat. I
Yeah.
was like,
You see Godzilla just fuck over one Japanese carrier, you're like, holy fuck, Jesus Christ.
yeah, and like you see like Godzilla coming up on them, and they're like trying to shoot it,
Yeah,
and then it like swallows one of the mines, or like the mines on board,
yeah,
and they shoot it, and you could see his regenerating factor. I was like, yeah, that gun a while ago would have done jack shit.
right? And then he just stands to finish them off, and you're like, well, it's been nice knowing you boys.
By the way, they answered our question of like why he could stand in water
Right?
when it's supposed to be like very deep, but like he's able to like stand upright because like I just watched the movie. It'll explain it.
Yeah. And that's why when he attacks Ginza next with Noriko in the city, you're like, please God, I really don't want Noriko to die. And he attacks the train she's in, and you're like, Jesus Christ, this movie is merciless and making me worry about these characters too much.
Yeah. Again, this thing was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like I love 2014 Godzilla. I love how they portrayed him, and like a lot of the times we didn't even see Godzilla. Like we
Yeah.
would only get glimpses of him. Here we're seeing the whole fucking picture, and I'm like, oh my lord.
Right.
Like again, it's a nightmare. This thing does feel like a wild animal that just for some reason,
Decided to attack
ang-
Japan.
yeah,
Right.
it's just angry at people. And our main character like comes in to save his wife, and like as he gets there, he comes in right on time, but that's when we see the most epic of atomic breaths.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I would say my favorite now. Like I love Shin Godzilla's like Evangelion beam that
Ye-
cuts through buildings.
Yeah. This one is like kind of horrifying because it reflects what just happened a few years ago. You're like, oh, that is a mushroom cloud. And Godzilla's atomic. Jesus Christ. Here we go again.
Yeah. Like he can't, and I love it that Godzilla can't really use this thing
Yeah.
willy nilly. Like he chooses when to use it,
Yeah.
and I fucking love the build up. Like his spikes would like come out and jut out, and I'm like, it builds up, and then as soon as like he fires, it's quiet, and then
Yeah.
you just hear a bang. I was like,
Yeah, so fucking a Death Star in his gut. You're like, holy fuck. Jesus Christ.
and like, dude, when we see atomic breath, it's just like flame. It affects whatever subject that is being attacked. That's being attacked. And,
Yeah.
like, that's it. Here, there's an effect. It's a bomb. I was like, oh shit. You know, like, I'm just saying, it was great.
And then
In my opinion, my favorite atomic breath.
Noriko pushes Tsushima out of the way and she gets blasted away and you're like, fuck! Shit! No! Why?
Yeah.
He didn't even... Fuck!
Yeah, right. And like even before that, like when Godzilla was just like stomping through the crowd, just being at like Worm's eye view,
Yeah.
like that shit was terrifying. And like I love that scene where our main character is just like screaming out of anger,
Yeah.
and he sees his enemy, and then like the black rain like starts coming in. I was like, I don't know if like if Godzilla won't kill you, like cancer will.
Right.
Uh,
I do like it the fact that it's the private military that are acting up because the main army can't really act because the world is still in this tug of war of like, if we do something, the USSR might think it's an act of aggression, and we're not nearly ready for World War III, and the US is like, we can't do anything. You're too near Russia. I'm sorry. You're near China. There's nothing we can do. I'm sorry, man.
yeah, and yeah. By the way, I love the side characters here. Like the guy with the glasses, Nobu.
Yeah, the scientists.
Yeah, and like a couple more characters. By the way, the engineer that like helped them build like the airplane,
Yeah.
he was from Rurouni Kenshin. I
Oh.
remember his face. Yeah, he was like the big guy with the big sword. I forgot his name.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Okay, okay.
yeah. But anyway, he's much older now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they all like start like, hey, this thing's a problem. We kind of have to do something. We just can't have the army with us. So all of the planes are decommissioned. All like military sits are like, eh.
Yeah.
Like they got like a couple of boats, and they're still being tossed around by Godzilla.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, the finale of Dunkirk when the civilian boats come to the rescue. This
Yeah,
British soldiers stranded. This kind of reminds me of that, of them being like, I guess it's in our hands now. We have to think of something. And I do like their solution. It's an interesting way of dragging Godzilla to the deepest part of the ocean. And then if that doesn't work, they'll bring him up to kill him either by freezing or depressurization. And you're like, that's smart.
yeah.
It's kind of smarter than
They're trying to give him like the biggest bends in the
Yeah.
world. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, smarter than, and it's more climatic than Shin Godzilla, where they're just like, we have to freeze him, and it's slowly going to his mouth while he's just sitting there and taking it. You're like, huh,
Yeah.
thought Godzilla was an angry beast, not a, alright, I'll just sit there and take it thing.
Yeah, and like, yeah, that's one thing I didn't like about like Shin Godzilla. It's like everybody was like at the control room and was like, "All right, put it in." I guess that's like, yeah, 21st century. You can do things a little safer now.
Yeah.
Here they're very hands-on. They're like steering the ship at each other and like grazing each other.
Yeah,
And like our main character like finally comes in
yeah,
and is like has a payload.
yeah,
He like detonates it in his mouth by doing a kamikaze attack. And I was like, and that was like his war. It was like that's what he wanted. It was like, you know,
yeah, and for the
and
moment you're like, oh Jesus Christ, this movie really is playing on the heartstrings, and then you realize,
yeah,
wait, the guy did say something to him before he launched. So maybe he
yeah,
has a parachute, and he does, thankfully.
yeah. The guy has an ejection seat, and I was like, that's nice because, yeah, okay, we'll get there when we get there. Godzilla blows up, sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Everybody's happy and everybody seems fine.
Yeah.
And oh shit, his wife, and I think will be now.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
his war is over, is alive. But there's this thing on her neck, and I was like, what's that supposed to be?
Right? And then there's things bubbling up in the ocean. You're like, ah, God damn it, Japan can never catch a break, can they?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I'm guessing this is not the last time we're gonna be hearing about this Godzilla. And gladly, like, I would love to see more Godzilla. I would love to see him, like, fight the space Godzilla with, like, the giant diamonds on its shoulders.
yeah.
I would love to see their version of, like, Rodan and, was this? King
Ghidorah.
Ghidorah?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
Mechagodzilla, maybe. Dude, I
Yeah,
don't know how that
and-
works, like,
Oh,
pre
I
World
would
War
love
II.
to see... Yeah, but I would love to see Jet Jaeger, but I feel like that'll be a little too like,
Yeah, you're like,
out there, and it might break the immersion.
yeah, you're like, how does Cold War Japan have the money for this? Don't understand. I was about to say, I do like the prototype kamikaze like plane that Tsushima flies, because I do believe in World War II that was like their prototype in case the Allies invaded Japan or like the mainland, but of course they never used it. But like they're just like, in case this happens, we'll use this, and then Hiroshima and Nagasaki made them like, let's not continue this war anymore. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, anyway, the thing that I'm very surprised about with this movie, and I would say it's a big highlight, and I would say what really kind of bumped up my score when it came to this movie was that speech that one character gave where
hmm,
we treated lives a little too cheap,
yeah.
where like tanks were made with like weak metal. Excuse me. We starved and like worked our troops to death,
Yeah.
and even kamikaze. And like this is like Japan kind of like seeing that like what we were doing was not right, like not just to other nations but to our own people.
Yeah.
And I love that, where even our main character kind of sounds like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
As much as the Japanese told you that this is the honorable way to go, like it's not the only option.
yeah. I do love
You
the
know?
quote of "This is not a war for our lives; this is the war for our future." Because they
Hmm.
finally Japan sees the error of its ways, and you're like, yeah, I really hope you win. Like the last minute when Godzilla has the atomic breath against the boss, you're like, wow, this is a bleak ending, and then Tsushima comes in clutch, and you're like, oh, thank God, Christ's sake.
I love it that it's not extravagant. It was like legit, like kind of abrupt, where the plane is just jammed in there, and
Yeah,
then it blows up. And I'm like, it's kind of cool.
right.
But yeah, yeah, again, I love the message that they had behind this, and yeah, like, yeah, it's growth for our character as well. And yeah, you're right. This is probably one of the first Godzilla movies where I actually cared about the main character,
Yeah.
and I love that.
I don't know, like all of the crew, the director, the cat, like the crew behind them, their favorite movies. They were given an interview by Letterboxd, and the director, I forgot his name, but he said his favorite movie is Blade Runner, and the rest were like Aliens, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, and you're like, it shows, it really shows.
But yeah, it clearly shows that they do this for the sake of cinema because those movies were very heavily influenced by people who just want to make movies,
Yeah,
especially Blade Runner and like Jurassic Park, and I guess the first Back to the Future.
yeah, but yeah. All that being said, what would you rate Godzilla Minus One?
Man, I got no gripes with this one. Like,
Yeah,
we had gripes with like the original 2014 Godzilla, where main character would be going on a train, going from point A to point B, and like we're not seeing anything about like the main
Godzilla.
guy. Yeah, Godzilla. It does the same thing here. Like we don't see a lot of Godzilla, all that much, like how as much as we would like to see him,
Yeah,
but we get more of the character development of this guy, the years and like all the trials and tribulations that he had to go through, even without the monster, and I
yeah,
love that. And him growing as a character, him like losing people, gaining people in his life, and like seeing that life is actually worth living, and the ways, the old ways of our country is not really, and seeing that it's not really the best way to live.
yeah.
I love that, and it takes like a gigantic lizard for people to see that.
Uh,
And now we see this like shamed guy being the hero at the end of this movie, and I love that. And Godzilla, I've never been more scared of it.
right?
Shin Godzilla is like great, and it's terrifying, and it's like, oh yeah, like I would never want to be in this city or in this vicinity if I ever saw something like Shin Godzilla. But the thing is, Godzilla Minus One kind of made it very personal, very a lot of the times it's characters looking up or like directly looking at the thing. That's my kind of gripe with Shin Godzilla, is that a lot of the times it's just politicians or people making strategies miles away while they're dealing with this monster. Here, the main character has a very personal grudge
Against it.
against this thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of something that we kind of expected Bryan Cranston to have with 2014 Godzilla.
Yeah, unfortunately, it just fell from the rafter, and you're like, is that it? Shit.
Yeah. But yeah, I would give Godzilla Minus One a 10 out of 10. It is my favorite Godzilla movie, and for sure, it's a lot of people's favorite Godzilla movie. And the hype is real.
Yeah.
And they did it on a budget, which is even crazier. Now imagine, and I heard there's a sequel with a very iconic monster. Again, not very familiar with it. We'll put up the name here, but I am like extremely excited with what they're gonna be doing with the future of like this franchise.
Yeah. Um, hmm. I also have no gripes, so I will give this a 10 out of 10. Like, the characters, the human characters for once, are just very compelling and you're attached to them until the very end. And, like, the fact that you're so invested in their story that you're like, I really don't want any of them to see Godzilla because that means certain death. Says something about the way their characters are developed, and Godzilla just being this force of nature that is representative of, like, I don't know, how destructive war is in general, and how we have to become better and look, not just fight for today or the next day, but fight for the future, fight for our future generation. It's a very nice commentary on, like, the way war is and how we can move on and, like, be better. And, like, as you said, this is done on a budget, and it puts most modern day movies to shame with how lackluster some of the CGI has been nowadays. And you see how this movie comes up with Godzilla with such a strict budget, and you're like, yeah, I think Hollywood is doing something wrong. And, like, I think Hollywood should stop cramming their poor CGI artists and give them the time they need, you know?
Yeah. And, like, we clearly see what CGI artists can do, because holy shit, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania, whatever bullshit, had a huge, like, you could make what, probably 10 more of this Godzilla movies with a budget that
Yeah,
Ant-Man had.
yeah, like,
And it didn't even come near to what Godzilla was.
yeah, like the only modern CGI film movie I can think of that comes close to Godzilla Minus One is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I've seen recently and will do someday. But that
Alright.
is like, alright, this is what we can do when we give our poor VFX artists a break and, like, stop making them cram, you know? But yeah, I think this is a very good Godzilla movie, and yeah, this week will be filled with, like, kaiju movies, so we'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, anything else to add to Godzilla Minus One before we wrap this up?
No, go watch Godzilla Minus One wherever you can. Hopefully it's in theaters, because me and Enzo we would have gladly gone out and watched it in the theaters and supported the amazing directors and artists that worked on this movie. Sadly, we didn't have that, so we just stuck to streaming.
Yeah,
And I guess that's our own way of supporting.
yeah,
That's alright.
yeah. I'll definitely watch the black and white version next if I have time to.
You mean like the first one, or is this?
No,
is there a black and white version of this?
Yeah, there's the black and white. Did you not notice? All right.
What? They got Kurosawa mode in it?
Yeah. Man. But yeah, that's been our video for Godzilla Minus One. What do you guys think? What's your favorite Godzilla movie from Toho Studios? Please comment down below. If you want to see more of us, please leave our videos a like, subscribe, and ding the bell icon to get notified of when we upload next. We're also on Spotify and TikTok. TikTok to see our best and funniest moments, and Spotify to hear us on the go. In the video, I'm En's Wolf on Letterboxd and Zoda's Voices on TikTok. Where can I find you?
Oh, you can find me at JohnGM_ on Instagram. It is my account.
And until the next one, we'll see you there. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.